Hey, what's your person? Welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, we will share with you about the size where we do selective breeding. The size of the babies and not the size of the parent. So whenever we do selective breeding, we actually remove the babies out from the tank as soon as we can, just below 0.8 cm. And one of the reasons for doing that is because we do not want interbreeding during the selective breeding process. So which means that we have to be very hardworking to actually remove the babies from the tank every time, when there is a selective breeding process that's going on. And there are a lot of tanks that we actually do selective breeding, and that's the reason why we have to keep netting the babies out. And it's one of the most time consuming in the entire end-to-end process. It's not even the recess, it's not even netting the streams to move to another tank. It's not about the cycling process, but it's actually about the netting of the streams. So we're just going to put the streams that we have netted into the tank, and I will show you how small they are in this tank. I'm not sure whether will they. So what I did is that I actually put a piece of food over there, and then we will see. And I have actually netted all the babies over there, and I just wanted to see whether will they actually go towards the food, and let's hope that they do. Okay, just gonna put it in. It's gonna be very slowly, and then we will see whether do they go right towards the food. And then you can actually see how tiny they are in terms of the size that we actually start removing them. So they are as small as a couple of weeks that they are. So now that the streams are actually in, you can actually see some floating by because they are so small. The sponge filters, the current actually bring them away. You can see that the flow rate of the tank is actually fairly strong, in that sense that you can see that water that is actually flowing through, and there are a lot of copy pots on the left side of the tank. You can actually see on the bottom of it there's some copy pots, and of course the detritus worm is there as well. So the streams are actually moving slowly. There's a lot of biofilm in this tank because we have let it cycle for a very long time with ADA soy. For crystals, we love to use ADA soy. So this is just one of the bigger streams that we actually netted out. It's actually past the 0.8 of a cm, and that's something that we have to work on. And the one on the right just now that was on the head, actually you can see that it's actually very small. So a lot of these streams are actually very tiny. You can see actually from the background they are very tiny, and this is some of the things that we actually do in terms of our weekly maintenance process. Rather other than water changes, we do a lot of netting of the streams, and netting of the streams takes a long time because they are very tiny and they require a lot of time and effort to actually see them and be patient to actually net them. However, I think one of the good part of this is that the rethinking of this entire process, because netting the babies is significantly more difficult than netting the parents. And I actually have learned this from the aquaculture process, where they actually move buried females, prawns that we eat on, that we constantly, the ones that we eat. And they actually, what they do is that they remove the females once they are buried into another tank, where then the babies are then grow up in another tank. So I think that is something that we are going to probably be looking forward to, and then trying to understand how do we actually get this process into place, which means that every time a female is buried, we will then have to remove them into a tank that we actually want to use that as a grow up tank. So it is slightly different from the process that we have right now. So the process we have right now is really about removing the babies. So they are very small. I'm just going to move. I don't think the streams are going to consume the food, and one of the reasons is because there are a lot of biofilm in there. So I'm just going to pan this slowly around, and then you can actually see that the size of the babies are very small. So we have at least a couple of hundreds in there that we have netted out, and it takes time for us to actually net them. So this is one of the process that we probably will rethink and change in future, so that we do not have to net the babies. I mean, it doesn't really take that much of a time. We probably take about a couple of hours to net a few tanks of babies out. But if we're gonna remove the females, hoping that they do not drop their eggs, then probably it will be a simpler and a more sustainable process in future. So this is just one tank that we have just released. I'm just going to move to another tank to actually let you guys see how small they are in terms of the size before we actually move them. So this is another tank that we actually have selected out. Not sure if you can see the babies over here, but let's try to pan in closer. These are very tiny babies, so you can actually see that what we actually did is that we net all these babies out, and then we're going to move them to another tank. So actually this is a simple thing. Right now we actually have this kind of like a small breeder box that actually so we just remove them, and then this is actually the tank that we wanted to put them in. So this is where it is. So we're gonna put them right into it, and you can actually see that there's the front glass is actually quite unclean or dirty because there's some algae and there's a lot of biofilm in this tank. So this is being prepped for all these babies. We actually like to prep the tank way before we move them and let them be mature before we release them. So you can actually see that we're gonna release all these babies into the tank, make sure that they are being released, all of them, so that no babies fall behind. So that is done, and then they are now, you can actually see that they are all around the hang walls and the floor, so they will consume quite a bit of this biofilm. This is yet another tank that we have that we actually see babies. So you can actually see that the babies are out, and one of the things that we need to do in the next couple of weeks is that we got to remove them into their own tank. However, if let's say you are not doing any selective breeding, you are fine to actually leave them in the tank of its own, and then you keep breeding them. Oops, we can actually see one dead stream. So we can actually, during our maintenance, it is also very important to remove, and you see your streams and see whether are they okay, and if they are not okay, just remove them. So do not be too concerned in terms of the dead stream, because for example we have now so many babies, right? So all living things die, and if we have streams that actually are able to replace the ones that die, then in a nutshell we actually gain more streams than dead stream. This is yet another tank, where we have babies. You can actually see that the babies are all out and they are looking quite good. The patterns on the babies are looking extremely well. I think they will grow up to be very beautiful adults. So these are some of the tanks that I would like to just keep them in there and then let them grow. However, I think when we start moving them to grow up tanks, they actually grow much faster. I do have one example over here, probably over here. You can actually see that this is a grow up tank for the orange eye. You can actually see that they are very small when I first put them in, and now they are really huge. So it actually pays to actually have them in grow up tanks. Like for example this as well, we have quite a bit of streams that we actually put them in tanks, individual tanks, and they really grow significantly much faster. So these are very robust streams right now. And on the very last tank that I actually want to share today is the Black Ninja tank. Over here you can actually see that the babies are out. They are black in color, and there are some that is fairly great, and I keeping them in the tank for the time being because I actually want to see them grow, and then before I start to select. So what I'm gonna do with this tank, particularly this tank, is that we're gonna wait for the babies, you know, to grow up, and once they are grow up, we can actually see some of them to have a little white spots or a little white line at the belly area, and that's where we will not select that for the next selective breeding. So this next batch would means that I'm gonna use brothers and sisters, which means that I will not use the parents. I will use the brothers and sisters to actually do a narrow genetics crossing, which means that their genetics will be much narrower, and they will not be as easy to breed in future for some of this. So what I'm actually trying to do here is that we have used the black ones and the black ones to come out with the F1s, and through that we will then use the brothers and sisters where we want them to be, you know, the black ones that have that we want to select out. Like not this, like for example, this will not be one of the criteria. This is not something that I will select to be used for the next generation of brothers and sisters. It has to be totally full black, and then look at the legs, whether the legs are full black or the legs have some transparency. So over here we can actually see that this female over here has a slight white tinge line on the between the head and the body, and that is something that is passed on to some of the babies as well. You can actually see that some of the babies have it, but some of the babies do not have it. So this one do not have it, and this is what we are going to do, is that we wait for them to grow big and then use a pair, maybe one male to two females, then we will start to do selective breeding again. So this will be then the next generation of brothers and sisters. We will start to narrow down the genetics, and you know, it will then produce of very dark, full-bodied black, legs black, leaving only the head and the tail area white. I think that's where we are going to head towards. And of course, you know, it is just a fun project that we actually like to, you know, use it as a challenge, as a milestone for myself to actually look through in terms of what actually happens in terms of selective breeding. So over here you can have another tank where we have different shades of galaxy tigers, you know, not the galaxy tigers, so galaxy streams that actually have different shades of colors and different patterns as well. So these are some of the projects that we are working on, and it's going to be fun to see what actually happens. So thank you guys for watching this video, and until next time, peace out.